Have you ever wondered why sometimes, even with the best intentions, you feel an inexplicable fatigue during the Rosary prayer? Perhaps you have experienced involuntary yawns or even fallen asleep while reciting your prayers. The question that remains in your mind is, am I doing something wrong? Does this mean my faith is not strong enough? The truth may be much deeper than you imagine. This phenomenon, which many consider a simple reflection of tiredness, may actually be a sign of an intense spiritual battle. Imagine Padre Pio, one of the most respected saints of the Catholic Church, who understood like few the challenges we face in spiritual life. He had crucial lessons about the importance of prayer and how to overcome the difficulties that arise while we seek to connect with God. What many do not realize is that drowsiness during prayer can be more than a reaction of the body. It can be an indication that the enemy is trying to hinder your spiritual progress. The Bible teaches us that our struggle is not against flesh and blood, but against spiritual forces. Fatigue during the Rosary prayer may be a reflection of this battle. Every Hail Mary recited and every Our Father proclaimed represent a declaration of faith and an act of resistance against evil. However, the enemy knows the transformative power of the Rosary and often tries to distract us, using tiredness as one of his most subtle weapons. The Rosary is not just a sequence of repeated words, it is a spiritual weapon. When we pray, we invoke divine protection and connect with heaven in a special way. It is like raising an invisible shield against spiritual attacks. But the reality is that the practice of prayer requires persistence. The enemy knows the strength of the Rosary and tries in every way to prevent you from using this powerful tool. Padre Pio, who faced countless spiritual challenges during his life, knew the value of persevering in prayer, even when it seemed impossible. He taught that even tiredness can be transformed into an offering to God. When you feel your eyes are heavy and your mind begins to wander, remember that every word you say during prayer has significant spiritual weight. You might be wondering, why does this happen to me? It is important to understand that we all face similar difficulties on our spiritual journey. Even the saints went through moments of weakness, but they found strength in God to continue. Padre Pio often said that these moments of tiredness were opportunities to grow in faith and trust even more in the power of God. Prayer is indeed a spiritual battle. Every word spoken in the Rosary is like a blow against the forces of evil. That is why the enemy tries in every way to divert our attention. He uses distractions, random thoughts, and even tiredness to distance us from the connection with God. However, persevering in prayer is a way to resist and overcome these difficulties. Have you noticed how tiredness seems to arise out of nowhere during the Rosary? Often, it is not just physical. The enemy uses these occasions to weaken us, knowing that if we are persistent, we will reap powerful spiritual fruits. When we feel sleepy during prayer, it does not mean we are failing. On the contrary, it may be a sign that we are in a moment of great spiritual importance. Padre Pio believed that tiredness, when offered to God, could be a form of sacrifice. He encouraged the faithful not to give up, even when they felt like stopping. For him, every moment of prayer, even if imperfect, was a way to demonstrate love and devotion to God. When the body is weak, the soul can be strengthened. It is in this paradox that the beauty of spiritual life resides. When you pray the Rosary, you are participating in a tradition that spans centuries and carries immeasurable power. An example of this is the Battle of Lepanto in 1571, when a Christian fleet defeated a much more powerful army after Pope Pius V called on the faithful to pray the Rosary. This victory was not attributed solely to military strategy, but to divine intervention achieved through prayer. This episode teaches us that the Rosary is more than a devotional practice. It is a weapon capable of bringing protection and victory. Just like in that historical battle, every time you pray, you are joining a chain of faith that has the power to transform impossible situations. When tiredness arises, remember that you are in a spiritual fight, but you are not alone. God is by your side, strengthening you. Padre Pio taught that we must persist in prayer even when facing distractions or sleepiness. He suggested practical strategies to maintain focus, such as changing position during prayer, taking short breaks to breathe deeply, and renewing the commitment to each recited word. For him, these practices were not just methods to improve concentration, but ways to resist the enemy's temptations. It is important to recognize that every difficulty faced during prayer can be an opportunity to grow spiritually. When you feel you are losing focus, it may be helpful to remember the purpose behind your prayer. Visualize the graces you wish to achieve and trust that God is listening to every word you say. Even moments of weakness can be transformed into strength when offered to God. When Padre Pio spoke about perseverance in prayer, he was not just sharing practical advice, but conveying a deep spiritual truth. He knew that every prayer made with faith has the power to transform lives. The Bible teaches us that the fervent prayer of a righteous person has great power, James 5:16. This verse reminds us that perseverance in prayer is an act of faith that can move mountains. When facing tiredness or distractions, you can use words of power to strengthen your faith. Padre Pio often repeated phrases like, "May Jesus live forever," and "May Mary live forever." These words, simple but laden with meaning, have the power to repel spiritual attacks and bring peace to the heart. When you feel yourself weakening, turn to these declarations of faith as a way to renew your spiritual energy. The Rosary is a practice that requires dedication, but also brings immense rewards. Every meditated mystery and every repeated prayer are like bricks that build a spiritual fortress. When you persevere, even in the face of difficulties, you are strengthening your faith and building a deeper connection with God. By persevering in the Rosary prayer, you are engaging in a spiritual battle that transcends the physical. The practice of the Rosary is not just a matter of mechanically spoken words, but a call to a deeper connection with the divine. When you face tiredness or distractions, it is important to remember that every effort made in prayer is an act of faith that has eternal repercussions. Padre Pio often emphasized that prayer is an expression of the soul's desire to unite with God. He understood that even when our bodies are tired or our minds scattered, the simple act of persisting in prayer has immeasurable value in the eyes of God. This teaches us that what is important is not perfection, but the intention and sincerity of the heart. When you experience sleepiness or distractions during prayer, it may be helpful to reflect on the meaning of these experiences. They are not signs of failure, but indications that you are in a spiritual battle. Just as a soldier faces challenges on the battlefield, the Christian faces obstacles during prayer. However, it is precisely in these moments that the grace of God manifests in the most powerful way. The Rosary is one of the most effective ways to resist the enemy and seek divine protection. Every meditated mystery brings us closer to God and helps us understand the mysteries of salvation. Through the Rosary, we contemplate the life of Christ and Mary, learning valuable lessons about faith, courage, and perseverance. This practice invites us to dive deeper into the history of redemption and find inspiration to face the challenges of our own lives. Padre Pio believed that the Rosary had the power to transform lives and situations. He often encouraged people to make the Rosary a central part of their spiritual lives. For him, this practice was not only a way to seek inner peace, but also a powerful weapon against the forces of evil. When you pray the Rosary, you are joining a tradition that spans centuries and has been a source of strength and protection for countless people. Have you ever considered the spiritual impact of every Hail Mary you recite? These words, though simple, carry immense spiritual weight. They are a declaration of faith and an invocation of Mary's intercession, who is known as the Mother of God and our protector. When you pray the Rosary with faith, you are calling Mary to walk by your side and intercede for you before God. Mary's intercession is a central aspect of the Rosary. As we recite the prayers, we are placing our lives under her protection and trusting in her spiritual assistance. Padre Pio often testified to the power of Mary's intercession in his own life. He believed that she was a source of strength and comfort in times of difficulty. Through the Rosary, we are invited to experience this same proximity with Mary and to trust in her help in all aspects of our lives. One of the most inspiring aspects of the Rosary is its ability to transform hearts and situations. There are countless reports of people who have experienced miracles and graces by praying the Rosary with faith. A notable example is the story of Saint Stanislaus Kostka, who faced a severe health crisis but found healing and spiritual renewal through the prayer of the Rosary. This story reminds us that prayer is not just an act of devotion, but also a source of power and transformation. When you face challenges in prayer, it is important to remember that these moments of difficulty are opportunities to grow in faith. Every distraction overcome and every word spoken with effort is a spiritual victory. Padre Pio encouraged us not to give up, even when we felt like stopping. He believed that perseverance in prayer was an act of courage and faith that pleased God and strengthened our soul. If you have ever felt discouraged for not being able to concentrate in prayer, know that you are not alone. We all face moments of weakness and distraction. However, it is important to remember that God does not expect perfection, but sincerity. He sees the effort we make to connect with Him and values every attempt, even if it seems imperfect in our eyes. Padre Pio suggested practical strategies to overcome distractions during prayer. One of them was to change position, such as standing up or walking while praying. He believed that these physical changes could help renew focus and energy. Another suggestion was to take short breaks between prayers to breathe deeply and reorient oneself. These simple yet effective practices help us maintain concentration and persevere in prayer. Additionally, Padre Pio encouraged us to use words of power during prayer. Phrases like, "May Jesus live forever," and "May Mary live forever," are declarations of faith that have the power to repel evil and bring peace to the heart. These simple words, though laden with meaning, help us reaffirm our trust in God and resist the enemy's temptations. When we pray the Rosary, we are participating in a spiritual tradition that has the power to change lives and transform the world. Every prayer is an act of resistance against evil and a declaration of trust in God. Padre Pio believed that the Rosary was a way to connect with heaven and seek strength to face life's challenges. Finally, remember that the Rosary is not just a devotional practice, but also a powerful tool for spiritual transformation. Every time you recite it, you are strengthening your faith and building a deeper connection with God. Even when you face difficulties, persist in prayer, knowing that every effort made with faith has eternal value. Now that you understand the power of the Rosary and its importance in spiritual life, it is time to put it into consistent practice. Share your experience in the comments below and tell us how the Rosary has impacted your life. What miracles or transformations have you witnessed by praying the Rosary with faith? Your story can inspire others to persevere in prayer and find strength in their faith. If you wish to deepen your understanding of the power of the Rosary and the teachings of Padre Pio, I recommend watching the complimentary video we have prepared for you. In this video, we will further explore the impact of the Rosary on our spiritual life and how it can become an essential tool in your faith journey. Don't miss the opportunity to strengthen your spirituality and connect with a faith community that shares the same desire to grow in intimacy with God. The Rosary is not just a practice, but a constant spiritual battle. Every prayer is an opportunity to align with divine power and resist the forces of evil. Remain steadfast in prayer, even in the face of distractions and tiredness. God is always listening and values every effort made with sincerity and faith.